So welcome to this edition of Ask the Expert, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Benny van der Sompele, CTO from Sweagle. And my burning question to you today, Benny, is why is DevSecOps such a buzzword right now? And what are the top 3 concerns that you're seeing in FinTech organizations, not just today, but for tomorrow as well?
The first part, why DevSecOps is so important these days, or why it is a buzzword. Well, very simple, because DevOps is really being adopted these days. We have full running teams who are practicing the DevOps principles, to the maximum, which means that they bring a lot of changes very fast and often live in production. And even the whole shift towards cloud native architectures and microservices is even accelerating the speed with which DevOps is being adopted and used in organizations. Now, with this unparalleled velocity that we see of how changes are being brought live in production, that brings also new risks, new challenges that needs to be brought under control. Because the old way of how a handover was done between dev and ops is not in use anymore. Today, you have self-running teams who are responsible for bringing changes from dev to test into production. So where previously you had people handing over the release from dev to ops with people who were doing validations and checks, that is not the case anymore today. And that is why you need to implement new methods that are monitoring that nothing goes wrong in that process where things are brought from development into production. Things cannot be forgotten, that the right settings, the right versions, the right artifacts are being promoted, into the production, but also that nobody or nothing can introduce wrong things into the process. After all, one of the new risks is that something or somebody might want to put in some malicious code, some malicious artifacts or wrong settings on purpose, which would open up a vulnerability. So those new risks needs to be brought under control, and that is where the sec within DevSecOps comes into the picture. So that's where you need to bring in the proper governance, that will control, that will validate, that will verify that nothing goes wrong. All right, good, there we go. So, to answer the question on the top 3 concerns that we see in the FinTech industry with regards to DevSecOps, 3 things, Basically, first of all, the need for an evidence repository, So, every organization in the FinTech and the regulated industry needs to be able to prove to the regulators and to the auditors that they are in control, that they know, that they understand exactly how every application was running, was being operated at any given moment in time in every environment. That is where you need to have a full, complete, not just an audit trail, but an evidence repository of what changed when and why on which resource in which environment. That's what the evidence repository is. Secondly, analytics. You need to be able to go back and understand what has changed, what was the old value, what are the new values for any changes that were brought live in an environment. You must be able to understand where the change came from, who approved it, and you need to understand how all these changes fit together in the bigger picture. So we talk a lot about the diff comparison, the diff compare, where you must be able to see the changes between, let's say, today for a given application in an environment and 5 days ago. What has changed from an infra, environment, and application point of view? And that is where you need analytics, you need insights, you need reports, you need to have that information at your fingertips available. Lastly, proactivity, The goal is, of course, not to just be reactive and be able to tell afterwards, this is what went wrong. The goal is that you have a platform that keeps an eye on all the changes that are going to happen. And if something shows, a wrong behavior, if it seems like there is conflicting data or conflicting settings, or if something or somebody tries to introduce some malicious component somewhere through the process, the platform should stop it. And that's where proactivity is a very important aspect and a concern that a lot of FinTech organizations have, as you want to be a step ahead of the problem, prevent the problem rather than be able to report upon it.